This is Diana Sullivan in Austin, Texas. I'm making red baby hats for the American Heart Association, and I'm sharing a basic baby hat pattern that you can use for any charity knitting or for babies that you love. Now I'm giving the pattern in 3 sizes and 3 gauges, standard, mid, and bulky, over on my blog. So go over there for some written instructions. Dress the hat up any way you like. I'm just going to show how a very basic one is made. On my bulky machine, I'm set up for ribbing over 56 needles. This is knit 1, purl 1 ribbing, and I'm going to do the zigzag row on the very tightest tension. I've set the machine for circular knitting and tension 1, and I'm knitting my 3 rows for the typical Japanese ribber cast on. I only need 6 rows of ribbing for this little hat. I've changed the machine, both beds, to the garment tension -3, and I'm going to go ahead and knit 6 rows of ribbing. Now you don't need to use ribbing. You could use a hem or do this another way, but I'm using ribbing for mine. And I'm going to transfer all the purl stitches, ribber stitches, on up to the main bed now and proceed with the main part of the hat. For the main part of the hat, I dropped the ribber, put on ordinary weights instead of the heavy Komen weights. I put on my regular sinker plate on the front of the carriage, and I've gone to the garment tension, and then I'm going to knit a few rows for the body of the hat. Follow your pattern. For the bulky, it's 16 rows. On the blog, I have an abbreviated method that gathers up the top of the hat, but in this video I'm going to show you the garter bar method. This is the same way that hand knitters produce a really beautiful smooth shape to the crown of a hat, and it just looks good on the head. You don't even need to hide anything with a frill or a button or a pom-pom. So let me show you how to do that. The garter bar works best with the bed flat, so I do have the bed flat. My needles are extended, and I'm going to put the brass stopper on. The smooth part of the stopper goes behind all the needle butts, and the jagged part goes right in front of the gate pegs, but on the needles. The needles can't move in or out or sideways very much with the stopper in place. Then I'm going to push all my stitches back, which incidentally opens all my latches. I keep a tool handy though for opening latches when I use the garter bar. I place the garter bar on the hooks. I pull the stitches onto the garter bar. The latches close and they slide right on. Now I'm going to push the garter bar back just a little, less than ½ inch, just enough to open all these latches. That'll make the job easier. Now I lay the stitches down in groups, so I put down 6 stitches, and then I pick the garter bar up and take 1 step to the left. That's going to double up 2 stitches on this needle here, and put down 6 more. This goes really fast. Pick up, step left, put down 6 more. So you'll have 5 stitches, then a decrease, 5 stitches, and then a decrease, all the way across the bed. And I'm a little bit careful about my counting because that's what makes the decreases look so perfect. At the far right edge of the work, when I step over, I'm going to put 6 down, and I'll have a remainder. I'll have a few stitches left. Doesn't matter, I just take them and move them over. Unless you have only 1 stitch left, don't ever put a decrease on the very last needle. I put the empty needles out of work and I knit 2 rows. Then I install the stopper again, push the work back again against the needle bed, put the garter bar on again, but this time I'm going to work in groups of 5. So let me bring my stitches onto the garter bar. Here I am on the left hand end. I'm working in groups of 5, so I put 5 stitches on needles, take one step to the left, and put 5 stitches on needles again. And step to the left, put 5. Again, when I get to the far right edge, I'm going to go ahead and put whatever remainder I have down. And that'll be all there is to that. So it was decrease in groups of 6, then knit 2 rows, then decrease in groups of 5, knit 2 rows, and then it will be decrease in groups of 4, knit 2 rows, decrease in groups of 3, knit 2 rows, decrease in groups of 2, knit 1 row, and sew off. So that's really all there is to this crown. It doesn't really take very long. Now I need to decrease in groups of 4. A step to the left, 4, step to the left, and so forth on across the bed. Knit 2 rows and decrease in groups of 3. Put 3 down, take a step to the left, 3 down, step to the left, 3 down, and so forth. Now I hope you'll hang in on this video until I have done the decrease in groups of 2, because the way I sew off is a little different than you may have seen before. Knit 2 rows and decrease in groups of 2. Now, note that when you decrease in groups of 2, you double up everything but the end needles. You don't ever want to double up the end needle. That's your seaming stitch. And you need it to be by its lonesome so you can get a great looking seam. A lot of people consider this kind of garter bar top a little bit tedious, but it really is remarkable how quickly it can be done with just a little bit of practice. Now here I have a remainder of 3, and I have no desire to have this stitch doubled up. It's my end stitch, so I'm going with 3 instead of 2 there on the end. And now I'm going to just knit 1 row over the remaining needles, and I'm going to sew off. My carriage is on the left and my yarn is on the left, and I'm cutting a nice long piece of yarn with which I will sew and pulling that on out of the carriage. I'm putting my stitches out in hold, that way I can get into them and sew through them. And I'm going to use my double-eyed tool. It's a fairly long needle, and that's useful for this. What I'm going to do is, my yarn's coming from the left, I'm going to poke into the stitches over here starting on the right. That way there's a loop of yarn running in front of the work. And I'll sew through a few and then go through the next few. The needles are in the way, and you see I'm not popping my stitches off the needles. I'm just leaving them on the needles for now. Another way you could do this, I'm working my way through 3 at a time, but you can also just get 1 at a time, just sew through it, but leave it on the needle, then bring your yarn down in between needles. But I think with a little wiggling, You can do more than one. I found 3 pretty comfortable with my machine and tool. Okay, once I've sewed through all these stitches from right to left, I'm going to sew through them again from right to left again. What am I accomplishing? I'm going through every stitch twice so that I can draw up 2 concentric circles of yarn, and that provides a tight little top that doesn't come open and turn into a hole later on. There I am, all sewed off, pulling the yarn on through. Well, here's the top of my hat, and I just pull it up and kind of work it a little bit, even up all these stitches. So I've pulled that up, worked that through, and pulled tight. That's not going to go anywhere. That gives me a nice closed up top. And look how nice my decreases look. They form little radiating lines from the center. All I have to do now is sew a little seam down the one side. It's a mattress stitch seam from the crown down to the bottom, and then hide my ends. I like to do that right on the spot, and I have a finished hat.